Hello everyone and welcome back to the tutorial series on a vector database where we are using a Pinecone database to just play with it with the help of a Python client library of Pinecone. Before continuing with this video, if you haven't watched my part 1, I would highly recommend you to please watch that so that you can understand the basic concept regarding the vector database and the Pinecone. So let's start it with the coding. And before we start in a coding, the very first thing which we're going to create is the index, which is the very basic entity of vector database in Pinecone. But before doing that, we have to log into the pinecone.io. You can just go to the pinecone.io. You can log in with your Google account. If you don't have, you can sign up for that. And once you just log into this website, you will be landing to this page. If not, then you can click on get started. And here you can find this generate API key, which you will be needing because through Python client library, we are going to connect. Right? So here you can give any name and then this create button, you can just click and you can get your API key. And once you have that API key ready, you can go back to the IDLE, whatever the IDLE you are having, and then you can just have your .env file, which you can see on my screen. I'm not going to open that because it's have my API key. All you need to do is to just use this pinecone_API_key equals to and paste the API key which you got. And then you have to use this .env through which we will be loading an environment variable. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another Python code and I'm going to copy paste few simple thing which is a standard like what all libraries we need to import, and then I'm just loading that .environment to get the environmental variable which is set for the Pinecone API key. The library which we need, all .env and Pinecone. And for Pinecone, what you have to do, you have to just use this pip install Pinecone. And all those information you will get through the website as well if you just go to the view guide, right? The next thing is what you need to do here, you have to just initialize your Pinecone client. And for that, you need a Pinecone class, which we have already imported with providing a API key, which we have already extracted. So this is how we can just initialize, which is a very standard thing to have. So we have created our Python client. We initialize that and we have that, right? The next thing is to create an index. We have this index function, which is create index, which takes bunch of parameters. So right now, name, dimension, metric, and span. So what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna copy this piece from try. Okay. And then I'm just gonna write the set part, just borrowing that from here so that we can save some time in writing that code. And then I will use that save time for explaining some concept, which is really important for us to understand. Okay. So we have this try and except clause. Now we need these values, right? These index name. So we can define any name, whatever we want. I can say tutorial, right? You can take any meaningful name. Now we have this dimension, right? We have to understand a little bit what is dimension, right? Dimension is a vector which actually refers like how many numbers of features or the vectors we want, right? So let's say if we say 1024, what does it mean? It means that whatever the word, sentence, image, and paragraph which is going to act as an input data, how many numbers of vectors or the list of numbers, we need to create when we are going to store the data. This is something which we are telling to the Pinecone. Okay, you create the index and the data which we will be storing in this index or the vector we will be storing in this, that is going to have a 1024 data points or the features or the numbers for a given entity, whether it's word, data, image, and paragraph, depending upon what use case we are trying to set up, right? So I hope you got this, right? Another important thing which you need to understand is why dimension is important, because when you get any specific input like word, image, paragraph, or audio, right? You use the embedding model, which actually converts your input data into the same number of features or vector which you provided here. If that number mismatches, you are not going to save your data into the index, right? And that actually help our index to already just set up like how the data should be stored and how it can optimize the search functionality. This is what the dimension means, right? The next concept is metric. Okay, so what is metric, right? So as we know, the vector database is primarily used for just convert your unstructured data into the numeric value, which is vector. And then the next feature which is provided is to just match the similarity so that we can just have a kind of similarity with the existing data whenever we query something. It gives us the more optimized search capability for the unstructured data, right? So right now we have three major options which we can utilize here. And if you just see here, we have used cosine, right? So we can say, but apart from that, what is cosine basically, right? These are just a mathematical method used to measure the similarity or the distance between the vectors. And apart from that cosine, right, we have, let me just put dot product, okay, we have dot product which we can use. Then we have Lean, right? And these are the different metric options which we have. When do we need to use a dot product, right? Dot product we need to use when we have a normalized vector, right? Normalized vector means when we just normalize our data, right? Euclidean is, when do we need to use this? When we have an image-based cases or the geometric kind of thing, right? Where we measure the straight line distance between the two vectors, right? But these are something which right now we don't need to worry about much, because once we start learning all these kind of stuff, then definitely we understand. But right now you have to understand this is something which actually change how we are getting the output when we are, requesting the vector database to provide us the data based on our query. So we have three options: cosine, dot product, and equal, right? Now, the next one is, which we have here, is our spec, right? So for spec, this is very specific to the Pinecone, right? So right now we need to provide a cloud and we need to provide a region here, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy paste the same thing. You can just take this from the website as well if you want to, right? Okay, we have this and cloud, we have cloud, and we have region. So we have defined that. And here we are using a serverless spec. This is just something to tell, okay, I just need a serverless so that the infrastructure will be taken care by the cloud itself. So this is something which is specific to the Pine. Right? So right now, if we haven't made any mistake, everything looks good. But before that, I need to show you one more thing. So these are the two indexes which I have already have, like compliance data and quick start, but I don't have tutorial, right? So I can just quickly run this. Oops, this one. Thanks. Okay, it's going to take some time. Come back here. Let's refresh it and see if it's created. Now we can see the tutorial is created. We can get the host as well if we directly want to connect with that, but we are not going to do that for now. Okay. Now, the next thing is what we can do, right? Here, if you just see the logic, right? What we have done, we have just built this infinite loop. We can just put that as well if you want to. Right? What it is doing, it is just trying to use another function in the PC object like describe index. So I'm just getting an index and the status, and I'm saving here and I'm seeing if it is having a ready state or not. If it is, so it's keep just checking that in the interval of 2 seconds. So this is just a way to just ensure that, whenever this code gets completed, we will be having that index, right? So this is how you can do. Now, the another thing is, which we right now we don't gonna do that. The another thing which we can do is we can make the connection to our index, right? How can I do that? To just make the indexation, just to connect with the index, all we need to do is to just pass on the index name. And once we have this created, right, what we can do, connection, right? And then once we have this, we can simply do 4 major things, which we're gonna see in a next video. What all things we can do with that? We can observe the data. Basically, we are insert and update. Insert means if data is not there, then we can insert it. Namespace is not there, then it's create a namespace and put it the data. If it is already there, then it will just, add the data. So it's kind of insert and update kind of stuff, right? Then it is absurd. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to call the here we have to just pass in the actual values which we want, right? So what we are doing here is we are making a connection, and then that connection is available to us. We are saving here infinity connection, and then we are using that to upside, basically, which is the insert and update. So like we have to just embed it, just we have to create the embed, and then we have to put it into the index. The next thing which we can do with the help of this is we can query. Again, this is something which we can do in a next video, right? So for query, we can just put in here what embed, right? Then the next thing is what we can do. Okay. So the query function we can use, and then what we can do, we can use another function which is fetch. We can fetch the vectors and we can delete the vectors as well. So these are the 4 methods which we have, and those methods we're gonna see in a next video, right? Because we need to insert a data for those. Okay, awesome. Right. Apart from that, what we can do, there are some other methods, right? We have a describe index, we can have a list index where we can just see the indexes, right? So we can see PC list indexes, right? And then we can create an index list, right? We simply right. So let me this. So now we should see. Okay, so we have delete protection, disable compliance data. The name is compliance data. Second one is a quick start, and this is the third one which we have created tutorial. Right, so we can see a lot of things, right? We can see vector type, which is something which we will talk about later. Here we can just see the matrix. I mean, for every index, we can choose a different, metric depending upon what kind of use cases we have and what kind of data we are saving to them. The next one is what we can do is we can delete the index, and what we can do, we can just pass through. And once this is deleted, again, we can just list down the index. Okay, so I'm just say this, this time, and our index will be gone. Okay, so let me save it, refresh this, it's terminating, stop, right? So now we can see, now we are only seeing compliance data in the quick start, which completely makes sense, right? So this is what you can do when it comes to the indexes. These are the various operations which you can perform. These 4 is something which we're going to do in next video, where I will be explaining how you can just create the embed data, because that is really important one, right? And we can just see the correlation between the dimension, like by using a different models, which doesn't create 1024 kind of output, or the vectors. What happens when it is not matching with that, and what happens when we have a model which is matching with this, then how the data gets stored, all those kind of stuff we're going to cover in our next video. So that's it from my side for this particular video. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please feel free to put that in the comment section, and I would love to improve that in my next video. And if you really like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you feel that this kind of video can help your friends or your group, please feel free to share with them. And if you haven't subscribed for my channel, please subscribe for that. As always, stay healthy and keep learning. Thanks.